So since we're beginning now the Hemshech of Toyu Tikkun in Hemshech Ayin Beis, we're standing very close. We're on Tesvov today, going into Chayil. So I'll mention a Nakuda from there. One of the Suttas, the Rebbe says that the difference between the Alter Rebbe, the Gabe, the Baal Shem Tov is that it's the same difference al derech between Toyu and Tikkun. The Chassidus HaKlolis that was nisgala by the Baal Shem Tov, the Rebbe compares it to Kabbalah as well. In Kabbalah you have, before the Arizal, there was Kabbalah's Haramak. He had a totally different way of explaining things, and then comes the Arizal. It says the Rebbe brings down from Sfarim, it says Kabbalah's Haramak is al derech Toyu, and Kabbalah's Arizal is al derech Tikkun. Obviously we're not talking about Toyu Kipshutai, which is an Olam HaNishbar. We're talking about the signon of Toyu Shebetikun, Toyu Shebekdusha. So what is one of the hallmarks, one of the trademarks, we say, of Tikkun, which is Negeh to here? So if we could size it up, there's two Simonim Mufhakim of Toyu, of Olam HaTikkun. It's Mistama Milton, you can explain it all different ways, but just boil it down to two things which you can tell that something is from Olam HaTikkun. And that is, number one, Seder, and number two, Hiskalos. The main subject of this first Maamar is the Inyan of Hiskalos. But also you see the Inyan of Seder. What's the Inyan of Seder? Everything has its place, everything has its, what comes first, what comes next. The Rebbe Rashab explains elsewhere that in one of the Sichos of Yites Kislev, that even within Chassidus Chabad, there was a difference between before Yites Kislev and after Yites Kislev. Before Yites Kislev there was Maamarim, which, to use the expression of the Rebbe Rashab, of the Fabrennt Develt. They were burning Maamarim. Nobody could come into a Maamar of the Alter Rebbe before Yites Kislev and come out the same. He would be a changed person. After Yites Kislev, Chassidus has brought down more by his slapshus in Seichel, which is Tikkun, and therefore it's Fabrennt Develt. It's more Miyushav, it's Mikelim, Olam HaTikkun. So even within Chassidus Gufa, even the Alter Rebbe Gufa, you have before and afterwards, al derech, the chili between Toyu and Tikkun. And then as you go from each generation, you come to the Rebbe Rashab, and Temimim and Hemshech Ayin Beis, you see more and more the Inyan of his slapshus in Seichel, in Oisius, in Kelim, in Hasbara, which become clearer and clearer. So one of the things is, again, the first thing is the Inyan of Seder. So let's demonstrate how we see in this Maamar, Dugma, of the Inyan, how everything has to be Mesudah. Ubagdoma, there's a famous Sikha that the Rebbe said when the Svarim came back from Zayin Kislev Tovshim Memches, where the Rebbe explains the Yesod, which brought down different places, that the whole way that we go to learning Chassidus is that it should be moving and it should be explained as much as possible al pi seichel. In other words, there's certain things in Chassidus which we know we don't understand. For example, yesh li ayin. Everybody knows that nobody understands how you get from an ayin to a yesh. This is only b'chek habayra. This is something only the Eibishter can do. Nevertheless, there is a certain havana that we do have in it, that the ayin has to come down and be mitzamtzem in an oifen that it be shaychus to this yesh. It has to be mislabish in the oisius, yihirakia, and then it can be mislabish in the nivra and be mahava the nivra yesh mi'ayin. So there's a certain amount of hasbara which you have, but how in fact does it happen that from an ayin, ruchni, comes a yesh gashmi? This we can't understand. But as much as we can, we do understand. And the same thing, the whole Inyan of Seder Hishtalshus. Why do we call it Seder Hishtalshus? There has to be a Seder Mesudah. So let's give an example from this Maamar. Right at the beginning of the Maamar in Sif, in Pedig Reish Chof Ches, the Rebbe Rashab, we'll soon see how does he get Bechlal into Tikkun and Toyu? How does he get into the whole subject over here? It all starts off with a pasuk, Ki Asisa Pella. I'm not going to go through the whole thing, but one of the things he brings down is there's two pirushim in the Zohar. What does Pella mean? Does Pella go on Keser, or does Pella go on Chochmah? Pella going on Keser makes sense. Pella means a double mufla, the mufla mincha al tidrish. What's mufla? Something that's higher than Seder Shalosh, higher than Kelim. So that would go on Keser. We're talking about Chochmah. Yeah, we're talking about Chochmah the way it stands in Kesser. But what about Chochmah the way it's begilui in Atzilus? There, the whole Inyan of Aleph, which goes in Chochmah, Sisa Pella Oisis Aleph, is Adarab. It's not the Inyan of Muflam and Aleph means to teach. Aleph Bina, Aleph Beis, Aleph Bina. Aleph Chochmah, Aleph means to teach. Ulfan of Limud. So Adarab, it's an Inyan of Gilui, not Mufla. So that's why the Adarab says, okay, so we're going to have to explain how Chochmah, as Chochmah is begilui in Atzilus, not the way it's up in Kesser, is also called Pella. Why? Because Aleph, Chochmah, is the Inyan of Shem Ma, which is the Inyan of Iskabalus, and that's how he launches into the whole subject of Toyu and Tikkun. From Shem Ma, because Tikkun is Shem Ma. So where do we see the Inyan of Seder, that everything has to be up to Seder? So just before we get into the Inyan of Toyu Tikkun per se, let's look in Perek Reish Chav Ches, where there's a brackets in the middle, which is really a chazorah from an earlier part of the Hemshech. And he's talking about Chochmah. And he says the Chochmah is the Reishis Hagilui. In the brackets over there, where he's about a third of the page down, he says, "V'cheinu klolos inyan haChochmah, gam b'shoshu mekeiru harishim ba'atzmas ein sof, shu inyan mashe b'yidiyas atzma yidea." So he says, even Chochmah, which is up there, kol in atzmas ein sof, harei ze bebechinas gilui la'atzmus al kol ponim. The gilui hadir la'atzmus b'chdei sheyeh hadir ba'ilmas. Why do you need to have a Chochmah in Oil Sof? It's not Begilu in Oilmas, it's up there. What's Nischadish with that idea? Even before you get to this, the Eibishter obviously knows everything beforehand. Why do you need to be Maitzel a Chochmah in a Madrega which is colored in Oil Sof? And then he says the reason is Achoinyan, who jump 2 lines, the Koidim Shenetzla HaYidiyah Hoya Hayidiyah Behelem Ba'atzmusa V'loi Hoya Oz Gilu Yidiyah Chulu. V'netzla HaChochmah Bibechinis Iskarlus Ba'atzmusay Liyis Hayidiyah Begilui Ba'atzmusay Al Kol Ponim. Bichdei Sheti Yatzilus Bechinis Chochmah Bechinis Hayidiyah B'neshamas Vayimus. By Mashnis Ba'aliyah. What's he saying over here? He's asking a question. Why do you need Chochmah Klul in Oren Sof? Who's it Gilui for? Say Chochmah is Gilu. No, it starts up out there in Oren Sof. What's it doing up there in Oren Sof? It's Gilui to someone. It's Kolol in Oren Sof. So he says, you need to have a beginning of Gilui, of Chochmah, starting out there. Once you have it out there, then it will continue to Chochmah in the lower Eilamas until you get to Atzilus. And once you have it in Atzilus, then you have a Mokkah for Chochmah for Divrei. So what's the Nakuda over here? Why can't you just be Maitzel Chochmah in Atzilus? Why do you have to start out there? Because again, everything has to be in a Seder v'Hadraga. Things don't just appear from nowhere. If you have Chochmah in Atzilus, there must be a Chochmah beforehand, even in Oren Sof, Lifnei Atzimtzum. There has to be a beginning of something. Everything comes in the Seder v'Hadraga. There's a Mokim in Ishtarshus where things are prepared, and then they come out Begilui, and then they do their function of whatever has to be in Seder Ishtarshus. So that's an akuda how you see, and this is one of the things you see clearly in Ayin Beis, that everything has to be a Seder Masuda. There's also, you get what I'm saying? They have to start out, you have to, in other words, Al Derech Moshel, if you want to sell somebody something, you have to first get into your store. Then you can sell it to somebody else. When it's in your warehouse, does anybody know it's Begilui? No, but La'atzmei has to be Begilui. You have to have it in your warehouse. Then you can bring it into the store, then you can sell it to the person. You have to have the Chochmah in Kolol Ba'atzmusay. It doesn't have to be. Atzmus can do anything Koyachel, but if you do Mitzad Koyachel, you can close all the Sforim. There's no Seder Masud, everything's Koyachel. There's no questions, no answers. We're talking about Al Seder. The Eibishter wanted everything should be Beseder v'Hadraga, should be a system. The system starts like this. The first you have to have it in the warehouse. So you have to have Chochmah Kolol in the Atzmus and Sof. And then when you have it Kolol in Atzmus and Sof, then it can be Netzl Achrat Tzimtzum in all the Olamas. And then it goes down in the system till it gets to Chochmah Datzilus. Once it's in Chochmah Datzilus, now it can be a Mokkah for Chochmah and Nivroi in Olamas Biyah. So everything has to be Beseder v'Hadraga. There's another Maila which you can chab if you think of it a little bit deeper. If you have that system that it starts out Kolol Ba'atzmus and from there it comes all the way down, then the Maila of that is that when you have something down here, you are somehow connected all the way up there, which is a big Maila. So you're connecting Elokus down here, and if I'm very mitzumtzum, but you are connected all the way up to the Mokav Shorish, because that's where it came from. That's its Shorish. That's just an dugma of Seder v'Hadroga, which is one of the hallmarks of Chassidus Chabad and Ayin Beis Bifrat. But that's not the Ikka of this Hemshech. Most people skipped to Reish Chav Tes because that's where he gets into the sugya of Tayu and Tikkun. So, in Reish Chav, what is the Nakuda of Olam HaTikkun? Again, it's Shem Ma, the inyan of Hiskalos. The inyan of Hiskalos. Now, why is this one of the Simonim of Hakim of Olam HaTikkun? Because obviously Olam HaTikkun means everything's in the Seder Masuda, like we just now said before, and also everything is in a notion that it's miskabel with the other one. It can make sense. There's a balance. So Shem Ma is the key word over here, and that's going to be the Hemshech all the way through the inyan of how things are miskabel one with the other. Whereas in Olam HaToyu there was missing that Nakud of Shem Ma. It was in of Shem Ba. Right? Gone through the whole first Maamarim Mistama, right? Okay. There's another point here, Derech Hagav, which if you haven't done the first part of the Hemshech, you might not chap what he's referring to. He says that, how does it go, the Seder of the Maimon? He says that, what is Shem Ma? Which level of Ishtalshlus is called Shem Ma? The truth is that the whole Seder Ishtalshlus is made up of all four Shemas. Ab, Sag, Ma, Ban. You have in Atzilus Gufa, Oir HaChochma is called Shem Ab. Ab is Milu Yudin, right? Milu Yudin. Sag is Bina. Same thing, Ab also goes on Chesed, and Sag will go on Gevura. The Midas are Shem Ma. Malchus is Ban. This is, all the Sviras have their own Shem. But he wants to say that Shema Iu Oirach Atzilus means that the Klolos Oir of Atzilus is durchgenommen with Shema Iu Oirach Atzilus. What is the Shema that is poil the Hiskalos in all the spheres of Atzilus? What is the Shema? He said it's going on the Oir HaKav. The Oir HaKav. The Oir HaKav is Shema and has the koyach to be poil Hiskalos in the spheres. Where does it get that koyach to be poil Hiskalos in the spheres? So he says in the middle something which it could be, if you didn't know the first part of the Hemshech, you might not have. He says because in the Kav there's a roshim of Ein Sof. Remember that? There's a roshim of Ein Sof. Yes, on page Tafresh Lamed Ches, the line begins Hagnuzes. He says, "Lachein hasfida shabai heim bebechinas blima, v'gam yesh boi mi roshim ha'ein sof." What roshim ha'ein sof is he referring to? You see, roshim, usually we think about the Rishimo. He's not talking about the Rishimo over here. Roshim ha'ein sof means, if you go to the beginning of the Hemshech where he talks about the Sheirish HaKav, where does the Kav come from? Let's put it into the map. Where's the Kav in the map? So we have the spheres of Atzilus, which are Netzal from the Kav, and the Kav has a Sheirish Lifnei Atzimtzum. What is the Sheirish Lifnei Atzimtzum? In Oir and Sof Lifnei Atzimtzum, there's a darga where the Eibishter again prepares the oil. We said everything has to be Beseder and Seder v'Hadroga. Where do you get the Oir HaKav? It's not something the way, if you learn the Eitz Chaim ala Seder, if you learn it such a way, there was Oir and Sof, then there was a Siluk, and then comes down the Kav, which is a little bit of oil. He took everything away, and then he started again with a little bit of oil. Where did that oil come from? It's a harder from the Oil and Sof. It was just Masalik. In Ayin Beis, he wants to learn, according to the Shitta that holds the Oir HaKav is an Oir HaGvul, means to say that in Oil and Sof Gufa, he prepared the Oir HaKav. This is called, in the beginning of the second minor, Shir Ba'atzmi B'Koyach. Or he says it's Golomb, yes, Shir Ba'atzmi B'Koyach. In the beginning of the second minor, on Tafresh Mem Gimel, towards like 5 lines before the end of the page, he says, this is something that is not explained in Eitz Chaim. It's explained by other Mekubalim, but it's brought down all over in Chassidus. That in Oil and Sof Gufa, Shir Ba'atzmi B'Koyach Kol Mashal Osid Li is B'Koyach. He was Messiah, the Oil HaKav that he wants to be mayor afterwards, after the Tzimtzum. So that means to say, even in Lifnei Tzimtzum, which is all Oir and Sof, which we call the Rosh Eitz Chaim Oir Echad Poshut, it's not so Poshut. The Oir Echad Poshut is nicht so Poshut. In the Oir Echad Poshut, there's also included within it an Oir, which is an Oir HaGvul, because he was Messiah Ba'atzmoi, an Oir that he wants to make for the Oirimus, which is going to be later the Oir HaKav. He was Messiah in the Oir and Sof Kufa, so it comes out that in fact in Oir and Sof there's two Oirs going on. There's the Oir and Sof HaBlikvul, and there's the Oir HaGvul, which is going to be the Oir HaKav. And how does the Oir HaKav come down? Obviously after the Tzimtzum. So what happened by the Tzimtzum? What happened was that the Bligvul, the Oir and Sof HaBlikvul, the Oir Echad Poshut, the way it is Poshut and Bligvul, was Nistalik, and the Oir HaKav then comes down on its own. When the Oir and Sof HaBlikvul is Nistalik from the Oir HaKav, does it go away completely and has no longer a Shaykhus to the Oir HaKav, or is there still a Shaykhus to the Oir and Sof? Right, so if you make it quite simply, you have the whole Oir and Sof is all together, and you say the Oir HaBlikvul goes away. Now the Kav is going to start going down the Seder Shtalshus. It's an Oir HaGvul. He was Messiah, the Oir. Shir Ba'atzmei B'Kerch. So he has an Oir HaGvul. And that Oir is going to come down. Is there any shaykhus between the Oir HaBlikvul that used to be all mixed up with him, all together, or not? This is what he says in the beginning of the Hemshech, and he mentions here the Roshim of Ein Sof. Even though it was Nistalik from the Oir HaGvul, there's still a Roshim left. There's still a Roshim of Ein Sof left in the beginning of the Kav. And we're not talking about a Roshim like we talk about the Rishima, which is the Inyan of Ke'ech HaGvul, and there's a Roshim of Ein Sof. There everything's beheld. Here we're talking a Roshim of Oir and Sof in Oir HaKav. It's Oir with Oir. So the Oir and Sof, even though it's Mesulak from the Oir HaKav, but a Roshim of it is left in the Oir, and that Roshim is enough to make the Kav also in an oifen of Bligvul. In other words, it has an inyan of Bligvul in it as well. Lamai nafkimina to us over here, the nafkimina is the Kav is not just a Kav. The Kav comes from Oir and Sof HaBlikvul and has a Roshim left over from the Oir and Sof HaBlikvul. So therefore, even though he mitzad atzmai is an Oir HaGvul, but he has in it something of Bligvul. And mitzad that Roshim of Bligvul, he can be poil his scholarless in the spheres. That's the Nakud he wants to read. That why is Shem Ma of the Kav able to do his scholarless? It's not just mitzad himself, it's also mitzad the fact that he has a Roshim of Ein Sof. Ein Sof obviously is not booked in anything, go here or there. So the Oir and Sof, the Bligvul the Roshim of Ein Sof that's in the Kav, can be poil a scholarless in the spheres of Atzilus. Right? That make sense? Yeah, that's the Roshim of Ein Sof, not to be mixed up with the Rishima, which is something else totally completely. So now that actually, as it happens later on, there's going to be a different biur, much later on this time. There's going to be a different biur as to why the Kav can be Pele Scholarless. That's already not in this contrast. There's going to be another biur why the Kav can be Pele Indian of his Scholarless. But this is the biur over here, that although the Kav is an Oir HaGvul, he has a Roshim of Bligvul. Now one of the questions somebody asked me is, why is Toihu Shem Ban? Somebody asked the question, why is Toihu Shem Ban? So all he says over here is, and this says in many places, he says, the Esespheres to Toihu, page Reish Lamed, says, Esespheres to Toihu and Esespheres to Ban, V'lachem Nikra Malchim de Toihu. Ve'la Malachim HaShemon, V'luchu Hu Shem Ban Kanoida. Who begins hayeshes v'hametzias. The chol melucha who begins yesh v'davar b'atzmai dafke. I want to make a point over here, which is I think is people get mixed up with this. We talk about that the spheres are begins yeshus, malchus is the beginning of yeshus, and we look at it and we hear the words yeshus, so we're already thinking about the shoyness of avodah. We're thinking about the way it is in our sprach as a ganze yesh. We have to remember. We're talking about Nelakus. What does it mean yesh is Nelakus? Bechla, when you say yesh mi'ayin. Yesh mi'ayin, this is yesh mi'ayin, this is yesh, it's Metzias, it's smoking. These are ganze Metzias. So how do you say Chachma dat Tzidus v'Chachma ma'ayin timat is also yesh mi'ayin? How do you get to be a yesh? Chachma dat Tzidus is called yesh. How can you call the Chacham Atzilus Yesh? Elamai, what's the pshat that it's a Yesh? It doesn't mean that it's a Yesh. There's two type translations for the Inyan of Yesh, just generally speaking. One Yesh means Hargoshes HaYesh. That's the Yeshes that we're familiar with. Halt van zich even, het zich. It's an Inyan Hargoshes HaYesh. He's a Metzias, and that's an Inyan of Pirut. That's an Inyan that he is something of Metzias, and he forgets a little bit about the Eibush. He's lacking bittul. So he says he's a Metzias Yesh. It's an insult. But Lamaila, we say Rosh Chachma is Yesh Mi'ayin. It doesn't mean to say that he's margish himself. Chachma Atzilus is Tachas HaBittul. Yesh there means that it's a Geder. It's a Metzias. It has a certain definition. Beforehand, before it comes into Eres B'Kein, before it comes into Atzilus, it's Pshitas. It's higher than a Tzia, higher than a Geder. When it's Mislabish and a Keli, it's Bebechinas Yesh. A Keli is a Bechina for Yesh because it has a Metzias, it has a Geder. So when we say that the spheres of Tohu were Bechinas Ban, which is Malchus, and he says that's Bechinas Yesh Metzias, we're not talking about Yeshus like our Yeshus, Hargoshes HaYesh. Here we're talking about Yeshus in a Lakus, meaning it's an expression of a Lakus in a certain Metzias, as opposed to what? As opposed to Oir, for example, Oir and Ma is Bittul. And it's not a Metzias, it's not going out. In other words, it's based, he says it's Shem Ban. It doesn't actually say the words here, but Ban, it's brought in all other places, Ban is Begimatia Behema. Right? Ban Begimatia Behema. What's the difference between an Odom is Begimatia Ma? That's what it does bring down, I think. Odom Begimatia Ma. Doesn't bring down Begimatia? Okay, maybe it doesn't bring down Begimatia, but that's what it says. And that's what it is. Begimatia Ma. Odom is Begimatia Ma. Huh? Beginning? Which professor does say it? Yeah, it does. Thank you. Right. So Odom is Begimatia Ma, and Ban is and Behem is Begimatia Ban. What's the difference between a Behem and an Odom? It's a big question. Behema, Ruach HaBehema hi ayiredus lamata, Ruach HaOdom hi ayiru lamayla. So the whole difference between Ma and Ban is the type of Metzias it is. Ma is a tnu of aliyah and bittul to higher, not to be a Metzias, not to come down into a gather, but to be nisbattle, and to be dovuk, something higher. And Ban is the opposite, to go down, to be redus lamata, and to come into some type of Metzias, some type of gather. So the spheres of which we're calling Malachim, which Melucha is Shem Ban. What is Melucha? Melucha is a beginning of Yeshus, not the Yeshus that we're talking about. What is a Melech? He has to be his galus as a powerful person. He has to come across as somebody who's in charge. That's a tnu of Yeshus, not a negative Yeshus. He has to come across as he's in charge. He's the boss. That's what a Melech is. He has to. It's part of it. That's why it says by Malchus Beis David, by Malchus Beis David, you see two opposites at the same time. You see Tachas HaBittul and you see Tachas HaYeshus. On the one hand, he's bottle. What does David HaMelech say? I'm a worm. It's the Tachas HaBittul. On the other hand, he's the king. He's running the show. He's going out to war. He's full. You have the two opposites happening at the same time. Because the Yeshus is not Hargoshes HaYesh. The Yeshus is the Tnuah that he has to take over. Now, he's bottle. His job is to take over and to run the place and to become a king. So that's what he does. So that's what he says, that the Inyan of Shem, of the Malachim, of Olam HaToyu, Malchim the Toyu, is the Inyan of Yeshus and Metzias. That means the Tnuah is to express themselves outwards, downwards, like a Ruach HaBehema. That's what it is. I'm not Emlech. I'm going to be in charge over here. Whereas Ma, Odom is Ruach HaLamayos. I'm looking upwards. Bittul, Dreikus. Okay, that takes care of Ban being the spheres of Tohu. But then somebody else asked another question. What was the other question about? What does it mean in the Surah Hagilin over there? Where is it? Where's the Surah Hagilin? Oh yes, on page Tafresh Mem Hey, somebody mentioned that was a Shaila. What was the Shaila? What's the difference between Romimus and Isnasus? He says on the bottom of page Tofresh Mem Hey, the Inyan Romimus was the Eine Bebechinis Isnasus. What's the difference between Isnasus and Romimus? It seems to be the same thing, and they are generally the same thing. Seems that there's a difference between Romimus and Isnasus, but it's not clear what it is. So the thing is like this. Romimus, the way it's written in this Maimah, Romimus or Romimus Atzmi is a status, a matzav. Hisnasus, in this context, is a pu'ula. When a melech is a melech, why is he a melech? What makes him become a melech? I mean, nowadays in America they don't know what melech is, because there's no such concept. You vote somebody in, you vote him out. That's not real melucha. That's memshala, and that's... So it's not coming from any primistic maila that the person has. It's not coming from any primistic maila that the person has. A real melech, where do we learn the inyan of melucha from? We learn the inyan of melucha from Shaul HaMelech. Shaul, it says, V'shichmoi v'mayla v'voy mikol adam. He was a head and shoulders above everyone. What do you mean he was head and shoulders? Was the hecher a mensch? A high type of person. Was he a king? Did he know Michoel was going to become a king? He didn't even know he was going to become a king. Shmuel HaNavi had to introduce him the idea, and then he saw that there were things happening, and he became a king. But he didn't even know that he was a shach to be a king, but he was a head and shoulders above everyone. That means a melech be'etzem, that's a roimimus atzmi, that's a matzav of the person. He's be'roimimus atzmi, he's a hecher mensch. Hisnasus means that he's doing something about it. Because he is merumim be'etzem, therefore he can take over the position of being a king and be moishel b'poel, be moilach b'poel. So the hisnasus in this context of this line is the actual realization, manifestation of the fact that he's merumim be'etzem. So nowadays we don't have a tzir of such a person, because we don't have any hecher mention nowadays to look up to. But if you think of it, the best example would be a rebbe. Most rebbes, most tzaddikim, starting from Moshe Rabbeinu, didn't want the job. What did Moshe Rabbeinu say? Shlach nabiyati, shlach's not for me. Who says me? Try somebody else. There's that. He doesn't want to be his galus. The Baal Shem Tov, the Adam Baal Shem had to convince the Baal Shem Tov in all different ways that he should do the job being Nisgala. Because the tnu of an ish hamayla, of such a person, is to be hisboided on his own up there, bedveikus, shema, bottle. Doesn't want to be his galus, which is a tnu of mitzias. They have to be forced to come out be his galus. So therefore they decline the job at the beginning. Shlachna, biyat tishlach. That's called that he's roimimus be'etzem, and that from that nothing's going to happen. He's going to stay be'roimimus, he's going to stay up there. He's bedveikus. If we want him, when he finally takes on the position of being a melech, that's when he actually goes and is misnase b'poel. That's his galus and manifestation of this roimimus atzmi. So, if we talk about Moshe, the maya of a person over an animal, we don't say it's hisnasus. He's not misnase over animals. He's pashut merumim. He's a higher, in merumim be'etzem, he's a higher being. Shaul HaMelech was be'etzem a higher being. Moshe Rabbeinu was be'etzem a higher being. Then, when he takes on the job, then he's misnase the poil over the and things. So when he says over here, the inyan ha'roimimus shebazeh, what's he going on? He's going on the roimimus that's in Olam HaTikun. He says inside the mind, he says, Shu'inyan ha'roimimus atzmi shebe'etzem hu merumim lo she'meroimim atzmoi. Not that he picks himself up. Ki be'etzem u'usa hu merumim v'nayla ma'oid. U'memela bo ha'roimimus l'gabel zulasa. And automatically, it has an effect l'gabel zulasa. So if an ish merumim walks in now, if the Rebbe walks in now, everybody would stand up and feel his roimimus. The Rebbe said something to you? No, but you'll feel automatically. Why? His roimimus atzmi automatically has an effect on the zulas. But it's not because he's doing anything about it necessarily. Big tzaddik comes in about Ruach HaKodesh, you feel bittul in front of such a person. That is, he says, Eine bebechinis hisnasus kim havdalas ha'erech. He's havdalas ha'erech, meroimim ba'atzmai, and therefore he can be meroimim al azulas. So that would explain the difference between roimimus and hisnasus. Not that roimimus and hisnasus are two different things, but in the context of the way it's written in this Maimah, there's roimimus atzmi and hisnasus al azulas. Is there anything else I have to address? I don't remember. So we did bam, we did this. I mean, that could be enough for now, I think. Has to be displayed, so I don't know. We'll have to think about it. Okay, I think that's enough for now. We'll wait for Claudia to have to the Inyonim. It's a shame.
Yeah.